Welcome back to the Creator Circle. Today I am with Schylar. She is a woodworking expert, and I say that because she's done many things for me and a lot of other people as well. She does not only furniture, and when I say furniture, she furnished her whole house almost with woodworking that she did herself, but then also decor and other just personalized gifts and things like that. And so without further ado, we'll start talking to Schylar.
Hi.
Hello. So today I wanted to start off by asking what initially interested you in woodworking and how did that get started?
It was kind of a gradual thing growing up. We always did like house remodels and stuff, so kind of always help out with that. And then as I got older, I would start making Christmas presents with my family for my family, and something my mom and I always did growing up was just making crafts together. So just kind of combined the two and just kind of grown and expanded skills from there.
Yeah. And so it's kind of an expensive hobby, but it kind of started as a hobby and like crafting things that you did to make gifts. When did you know that you wanted to take it full time, or when did you know that it was possible career opportunity for you?
Like I said, I started out making the Christmas presents and everything, and then whenever Adrian and I started looking at buying a house and everything, he's really big on made in USA, as you know. So we went to Gallery of Furniture and kind of looked around, and for standard bedroom set there, you're looking at spending at least $2,000 and about four on a couch and love seat and all of that. So we just kind of had the idea, well, let's just build it ourselves. So started out with, my stepdad just had some tools laying around the house and just kind of got started from there. And uh, along the way, it just turned into, I realized I really liked it. And there was times that Adrian was like, when are we going to be done with this? And so I just realized I kind of had a knack for it and I really enjoyed it. And he was the one that actually said, why don't you just do this full time and do this for a living? And so I'm at the point where now I'm actually trying to do it for a living and having fun along the way.
Yeah, it's really fun to find your passion, what you're good at, and what you enjoy doing, and being able to provide, for yourself and your family through that is really fun and really great, and really fulfilling. All the things. It's just good all around. Um, so what is your favorite part of woodworking or favorite part of the process? Give us some insight into that.
I guess my favorite part would be taking something that's just bare wood and turning it into something that has a purpose or something that people can use on a daily basis. And let's say right now, one of my favorite things to make is I make these recipe boxes, which made one for you.
Yes.
And so that's one of the things that I like to make because that's something that can be a family heirloom for people. You turn it into, starts out as just a piece of wood and you turn it into a family heirloom. And a lot of the furniture I make could be around for a long time after I'm gone because it's
Yeah.
quality stuff. And it's just, uh, it's an honor to try to, make that type of thing for somebody and them have it and use it on a daily basis, especially with, how society is so disposable these days. And I'll just go buy another one and it's not something that lasts. It's nice to make something that lasts.
Right. Yeah. And I like what you said that like these could be heirlooms and passed down for generations and last for so long. Speaking of the recipe boxes in particular, you really make them unique by adding the actual handwriting of the individual that you're possibly making it in honor of or the person that it's going to be given to. And I've talked to a chef and a baker before, and we talk a lot about cooking and cooking in a family and how each family has traditional recipes that they stick to and little tweaks to those recipes that are unique to them. And so something like that recipe box can honor those family old traditions and recipes and things like that that are unique to your family. Every family has their one go-to recipe that's different from everybody else. So that's really cool. And I want to preface this by I'm not sure if I'm phrasing this correctly, but I know that when thinking about, for me at least, the three-dimensional space, like length, width, height, sometimes I'm like, where's the length and where's the width and which one is the height? Okay. So does thinking in that three-dimensional realm come naturally, or was there a little bit of a learning curve where you had to, break your traditional thinking habits to force yourself into remembering all of those aspects?
I would say for me, it comes pretty naturally. I'm really not a person that's great at math. I passed that off to Adrian on that. But whenever it comes to like the woodworking aspect or the construction aspect of math, I'm typically very good at it, and I'll have a project idea that comes to mind, and I'll be sitting there trying to explain it to Adrian. He's just completely lost on what I'm trying to say, and I'm saying, okay, it's got to be this wide here, and then we got this width of the board here, so we got to add that there, and going on and on. And he's totally lost, but I know exactly what I'm saying in my head. So
Right.
I definitely say that's just something that came naturally to me. I mean, there's a little bit of a learning curve to it because as you're building something, there may not be something that you think of the first go round, but then as you're starting to put it together, you realize, oh, I didn't account for this, and I gotta add a little bit more to that, or I cut a little piece off of that, and just little things like that.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to Adrian in feeling like completely lost when you're talking about something. And it brings to mind in our last conversation with our last guest, we were talking about drawing and how going to art school really teaches you to draw what you see as opposed to drawing what you think you see. And then moving that over into woodworking, it's more about putting together what you think you see because it's not there yet, and you have to put all the pieces together. And I think about watching those memes or reels where somebody puts something together and then they set something on it and it all falls over. You have to have that imagination and a really good visual behind it in order to ensure that the finished product is going to work and do what it's supposed to do, which maybe it's holding something. And so that's really interesting that you're able to do that. I mean, I know for me, if I am building something which I'm not doing often, but sometimes I'll figure out along the way that, oh, I'm probably gonna need to add something else in order to make it work the way that I really want it to. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's very cool. And so do you have any tips or tricks that you've learned along the way that you would recommend or share with somebody who's just starting out?
Always ask for help. uh, I've learned along the way of like joining woodworking Facebook groups and stuff like that. That woodworking is a community, and everybody doesn't really know what they're doing. They're just kind of winging it as they go. So I've figured that out along the way that a lot of woodworkers are just there to help you figure out what you can figure out and just try to help you along the way. And another thing I would say is if you mess up somewhere along the project, it's usually better to go back and fix that mistake instead of just trying to hide it in the end because it's typically not something you can hide once you put that finish on. That finish, you put it on and it shows everything. It's a really satisfying thing of putting that glossy finish on the bare wood and it starts to be real shiny and everything, but that does highlight everything. So you mess
Right.
up somewhere along the way, definitely try to fix it as it happens, or even if you have to restart, go ahead and restart it because it's going to be worth it in the end.
Right. And so you must live by measure twice, cut once.
I measure like 15 times.
Yeah. It's so funny, and I understand the concept of measure twice, cut once. But even when I'm measuring, it's like, okay, was that exactly accurate? Should I do that again? I'm always going back and double checking my work. So I probably end up doing it way more than I need to in order to make sure that it's correct. But yeah, and I think it's really nice that you mentioned that it's important to ask for help. I think that that kind of bleeds into just life in general, but especially when you're starting something new, you want to make sure that it's a judgment-free zone. We're all aware that We have different levels of skill and different capabilities, and we just want to help one another. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that's just really important. And another thing that you mentioned was joining like a Facebook group and finding a community that is part of what you create. Doesn't have to necessarily be woodworking, but where you fit in and for what you do. And even if you don't directly ask for help, I find that those groups just tend to post a lot of really helpful and useful information that you can, maybe one day you didn't know that you were looking for it, and it'll pop up in your feed, and it'll be like a little golden nugget of information for you to carry with you moving forward. So any creators of all kinds, I would encourage you to find your community, whether it's online or in person or whatever, and not to be afraid to ask for help, of course.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't have any more questions for you today then. Thank you for joining us. And if anybody has any woodworking needs, if they have any questions, I'm going to send them your way. I know that like you mentioned, I have one of your recipe boxes, and I have also a blanket ladder. And I know you're working on a few little things to help secure some of my existing furniture. So I highly recommend you and your services. And so I'll pass that along to everybody else as well.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining me. Everybody else, remember that episodes drop weekly on Wednesdays, so stay tuned next week for another episode with another guest. Awesome. Bye. Hi guys, before jumping off today, I just want to highlight some of Schylar's work so that you can see her talent for yourselves. Keep watching to check out some of her woodworking expertise.